What up, YouTube? It's your boy Charles Enoch. You already know we back with another Invest in Myself episode. So run the intro. So today we'll be talking about how to pay off your credit card without paying any interest. But before we get started, make sure to take a little time, hit that like button and that subscribe button for me. My goal is for this channel to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I appreciate you guys for taking that time to do so. So to pay a credit card off without paying any interest, we'll be using a technique called velocity banking. So the first thing you're going to need to understand about this technique is income pays credit and credit pays expenses. So we're basically using our credit card just like a checking account. So let me break this down to you. When you put your money on a credit card, when you pay something on your credit card, the money isn't lost, meaning you can use the money to pay your expenses as well as pay your statement balance off to avoid any interest. So once you pay your credit card off, you then turn around and then pay your expenses from your credit card. So for example, let's say you have a credit card balance of $1,500 and your income is $1,500. You would use your income, your paycheck, to pay off your credit card. Now, let's say your expenses are $1,200. You will then turn around and use your credit card to pay $1,200 worth of expenses. This would leave $300 left on your credit card for a balance of $1,200 for next month. You will then repeat this process 4 more times to pay off your credit card without paying any interest every month. And this is specifically because you're paying the statement balance off in full every month. So I know this may sound complicated and hopefully I didn't confuse anybody, but you already know I have a whiteboard up with a scenario and we'll break this down. Let's do it. All right, so we're on the whiteboard. So let's get down to the scenario here. So we have an individual, their income is going to be $3,700 per month. Their expenses are going to be $2,300 along with their rent is going to be $1,200. So their total expenses are going to be $3,500. You're going to see why I separated out the expenses and the rent later on here. But combined, their expenses are $3,500. Now their cash flow, which is the income minus the expenses, are going to be $200. So their income's $3,700. Their total expenses are $3,500. So it leaves a leftover cash flow of $200. Now the credit card this individual has, they're going to have $2,400 that they need to pay off on their credit card. Their minimum payment amount is $100 per month with the astronomical interest rate of 35%. Now, most people, they're going to use that extra cash flow and put it onto their credit card and pay it off that way. But we're going to use a velocity banking strategy to pay off the credit card and not accrue any interest. So what we want to remember is our income is going to pay our credit, and then our credit is going to pay our expenses. And this will be the velocity banking method that we will be doing here. So let's go to the other side of the board and let's see the scenario here. All right, so we're on the other side of the board. So let's take a look at the formula and how we're going to pay our credit card off. So let's say that it is the month of January 1st. And let's just say that this individual gets paid the first of every month. So they have their income of $3,700. The first thing that they're going to do is take $2,400 of that income and they're going to pay off their credit card in full. Now, when we pay off our credit card in full, we already know that we're going to avoid any interest. So when we pay that statement balance off, we avoided the 35% interest per that month. Now, essentially what that does when we pay off our credit card, it actually increases our cash flow. Remember, our credit card, the minimum payment is $100 per month. So since we paid off our credit card, it's going to increase our cash flow by $100 and it's going to decrease our expenses by $100. Now, the next step is we're going to take the remainder of our income, that $1,300, and we're going to first pay $1,200 on the rent. And why I separated it out, because most people cannot pay their rent with their credit card. So that remainder cash that you have, you're going to pay your rent $1,200, and then that $100 we're going to put towards our expenses. So essentially, this is going to make our expenses $2,100. Now remember, our expenses was $2,300, but since we paid our credit card off, it decreased our expense by $100, and then we put $100 of our income on the expenses. So that's how we're getting that $2,100. Now the next step is, how are we going to pay our expenses, right? We still have $2,100 of expenses, and that's easy. So remember, our income is going to pay our credit card, and then our credit card is going to pay our expenses. So we're going to use our credit card, the $2,400 that we have on it, we're going to use $2,100 of it to pay our expenses. And what's left over is $300 left on your credit card. So for the month of January, if we take a look, our debt is $2,100. The amount that we paid on the credit card is $300, and we avoided the interest because remember, we're paying the credit card off in full. All right, so we're in the month of February here. So the first thing that we're going to do, remember, our debt is $2,100 at the end of January. So we're going to use $2,100 of our $3,700 income. We're going to pay off our credit card in full. Like we already know, once we pay the credit card off in full, that's going to avoid any interest on the credit card. And what that's going to do is increase our cash flow, and it's going to decrease our expenses. So the next step, we're going to take the remainder of our income, which is $1,600. We're first going to pay the rent, keep a roof over our head, right? And then the remainder expenses on that is $400. We're going to throw that towards our total expenses. So our end expenses is $1,800 that we have to pay off left. And like we already know, since income pays our credit is going to pay our expenses here. So we're going to look at our credit card, $2,400. We paid it off in full. We're going to use our credit card to pay our expenses, the remainder expenses of $1,800, and that's going to leave $600 left on our credit card. So if we look at the month of February, we have $1,800 of credit card debt to pay off, and we've paid off $600, and we avoided interest yet again for this month. All right, so we're in the month of March. So let's take a look at the debt amount for the end of February, which is $1,800. So the first thing that we're going to do in the month of March, we want to pay our credit card off in full. So we're going to take $1,800 of our income, and then we're going to put that on the credit card, pay it off in full. That's going to increase our cash flow by $100. Is going to decrease our expenses by $100. Now we're going to take the remainder of the $3,700, which is $1,900. First, going to pay the rent, right? Most important bill. And then we're going to put $700 towards the expenses, which is going to leave our expenses at $1,500. How are we going to pay the expenses? We already know income pays the credit, and our credit is going to pay our expenses here. So we're going to look at our credit card, paid in full, avoided interest, right? We're going to put $1,500 of the $2,400 we have available, and it's going to leave $900 left off on our credit card here. So for the month of March, our debt is $1,500 that we have to pay off on the credit card. We paid off $900 of the credit card, and we avoided interest yet again. All right, so we're going to keep going. Repetition, repetition, repetition. So we're in the month of April. So the first thing that we want to do is look at the end of March, and at the end of March, our debt was $1,500. So the first thing we're going to do is take $1,500 out of the $3,700 of our income, and we're going to pay off our credit card, paid in full. This avoids any interest on that credit card. We're going to increase our cash flow by $100, and we're going to decrease the expenses by $100, because remember, the minimum payment on there was $100, and that's part of our expenses, right? So the remainder of our income, which is $2,200, we're going to first pay our rent. Once we pay our rent, we have $1,000 remaining. So we're going to put $1,000 on our expenses, and then our expenses left over is $1,200. Now we already know how we're going to pay the remainder expenses. Income pays credit, credit pays expenses, right? So our credit card, $2,400, we're going to put $1,200 and pay our expenses. What's left over on our credit card is $1,200. So in the month of April, we can see our debt is $1,200. The amount that we paid on it is $1,200. So we're halfway there. And guess what? We haven't paid any interest yet. All right. So we're in the month of May, the greatest month. That's my B-Day month. So the month of May, we're going to take a look at the end of April, which our debt was $1,200. So the first thing that we're going to do, take $1,200 of our $3,700 of income. We're going to pay off our credit card, pay it off in full. That avoids any interest. Going to increase our cash flow. Going to minus our expenses by $100. Now the income, the remainder of our income, which is going to be $2,500, we're going to pay that towards rent first, keep a roof over our head, and then we have $1,300 left that we can put onto our expenses. So that's going to leave a remainder amount of our expenses of $900. Now, what are we going to do? Income pays credit, credit pays expenses. We're going to use our credit card of $2,400. We're going to swipe it for the $900, right, to pay the rest of our expenses. And then we're going to have $1,500 left off on our credit card here. So let's look at the month of May. Our debt is only $900 and we have paid off $1,500. And the good thing is no interest has accrued yet. All right, so we're in the month of June. Let's take a look at the end of May. It looks like our debt was $900. So the first thing that we're going to do, take $900 of our income. We're going to pay our credit card off in full. We already know when you pay your credit card off in full for that month, no interest accruals. So that's going to increase our cash flow by $100 and decrease our expenses by $100. Next step, we're going to take the remainder of our $3,700 of income, which is $2,800. First, pay our rent, obviously, right? Biggest bill we have. Then we're going to pay $1,500 of our expenses. Now, what's that's going to leave left is $600 left on expenses. Now, our next step, we're going to take our credit card, the $2,400 that we have available, and use $600 of it to repay the remainder of our expenses. What that is going to leave left is $1,800 on our credit card here. So if we look at the end of June here, it is $600 that we have left to pay on our credit card, and we have paid $1,800 off. And again, no interest has accrued. All right, we're almost paid off. We're in the month of July. So first thing we want to do, what is our debt at the end of June? $600. We're going to use $600 of our $3,700 of income, and we're going to pay our credit card off in full. That means that we avoided interest, increases our cash flow by $100, decreases our expenses by $100. Now, next step is we're going to take the remainder of our income, which is $3,100, first pay the rent, and then we're going to pay our expenses, $1,800 of our expenses. That is going to leave us $300 left for expenses. What are we going to do? Income pays credit, credit pays our expenses. Let's pull out our credit card and use $300 of the $2,400 of our credit card. That means that $2,100 is left on our credit card at the end of July. So if we look, our debt is $300 and we've paid $2,100 on our credit card. And again, a big fat zero in interest. All right, bring the champagne bottles out. We're at the month of August and we're about to pay off our credit card. So let's go through this formula real quick here. So at the end of July, we know that we have $300 left on our credit card. So we're going to use $300 of our $3,700 income, pay the credit card off, avoid any interest. This increases our cash flow and decreases our expenses by $100. Now, the remainder income, which is $3,400, we're going to first use to pay the rent, And then we're going to use the remaining $2,100 to pay off all of our expenses. Now, next step, our credit card has $2,400 on it. That means that it's paid in full. We have no expenses. What's left on the card, it actually shouldn't be zero. What's left on the card is $2,400. So we're paid off in full. Again, this is a very simple velocity banking method to pay off a credit card. Obviously, it's a perfect situation and scenario. Everybody's scenario is different, but you guys get the basic concept of it. If you like this video, definitely remember to hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. If you want me to do another scenario, which I might do a couple other scenarios like this, let me know down in the comments. Again, too, I've been remaking a lot of my videos based on the audio quality. So let me know if this audio quality is good down in the comments. I did a lot of mic checks, but the best mic check is you guys let me know in the comments that this that you can hear loud and clear on this video here. So again, thank you guys for watching. Like always, you guys stay blessed. Peace out.